You probably heard that you should be eating more protein if your goal is weight loss. But how much you actually need to eat and how to break that down throughout the day, that's when it gets a little bit tricky. Today, I'm going to be sharing how I personally hit my protein goals every day, along with all the tips and the tricks that have helped my clients do exactly the same. Plus, keep watching for 3 simple meal plans that I'm going to show you where I exactly break down what the high protein diet looks like for fat loss. Hey everyone, my name is Andres. I am back with another video on the essential nutrition strategies that are going to completely simplify fat loss for you. Today's video, it's all about protein, how much you need, what the best sources are, how to create a meal plan for yourself that will make it easy to hit your protein goals. But before we get into all of that, I want to give you a quick intro if you are new in here. I'm Andres Ayesta and I am a registered dietitian who teaches busy professionals and parents how to lose weight by taking their nutrition, their fitness, and their lifestyle habits to the next level. And I show you how to do all this in a way that still gives you time for your family and helps you crush your career goals. So if you're a busy parent, woman, or man who is trying to balance it all, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when every new video that I record on here goes live. Okay, now let's talk about protein. Protein is one of 3 macronutrients. When we eat foods with protein, our body breaks it down into smaller building blocks called amino acids. Then, these amino acids are used to build and repair almost every kind of body tissue in your body. When your goal is fat loss, the amount of protein you eat each day is extremely important for 2 reasons. First, protein helps you feel fuller for longer, so you naturally eat fewer total calories throughout the entire day. This happens through the effects that protein has on hormones that regulate your appetite. Another thing that's super helpful about protein is that studies show that it can help you reduce your late night overeating, which is a huge struggle for many people, usually something that keeps them stuck at their current weight or causes them to gain more weight. Finally, protein is so helpful for fat loss because it helps you maintain muscle mass. Muscle tissue burns a ton of calories, even when you're not moving or exercising. So when you have more muscle, it makes it a little bit easier to lose fat. I'm not talking about getting bodybuilding shape or having massive amount of muscles for you to be able to do this. I'm talking about good, nice quality muscle. Now, when you lose weight, it's common that you lose some muscle along with fat. I'm not sure if you knew that, but when you're in a calorie deficit, which we have talked about in previous videos, your body is breaking down tissue. Now, with protein, this is something that you're going to want to minimize as much as possible. And again, one way to do this is by getting enough. So your body has the building blocks to repair and grow muscle. This is also why I highly recommend strength training when you're losing weight, so you can increase the amount of muscle you have, which then increases the number of calories you naturally burn each day. Okay, so now that you have a good understanding of why I'm telling you to eat more protein, hopefully you got this by now, let's dive a little bit deeper into how to make this happen. Let's go back for a second to amino acids. I'm not going to give you all the details and all the science in there because honestly, I don't even understand it 100%. I'm kidding, I do, but it's hard to explain. But basically, there are 9 amino acids that your body cannot make. So it has to get them from food. We call these 9 amino acids essential amino acids. Any nutrient that is essential, that means your body cannot produce it and you need to get it from food. Foods that gives us all 9 essential amino acids are called complete protein or of high biological value. Most complete proteins come from animal sources like chicken, turkey, beef, dairy products, and eggs, but there are a few complete plant-based proteins too, like soy or quinoa. The first step of increasing your protein intake to match your fat loss goals is to determine the goal for the number of grams of protein that you need to be consuming every single day. A good way to estimate your protein intake is to eat about 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein for every pound of body weight. I like to simplify this even further and suggest that you start by consuming 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So for example, if you weigh 150 pounds, you would eat 150 grams of protein each day. Now this becomes a bit more difficult if you're carrying a significant amount of extra weight right now. So you can also do something different. You can use your goal weight for your protein goal. So if you weigh 220 pounds and your goal weight is 160 pounds, maybe aim for 160 grams of protein every day. The best way to make sure that you're hitting these protein goals is to use an app such as MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, which we have talked about in previous videos. This is going to allow you to track your food intake and pay closer attention to your protein intake. Tracking allows you to also become very familiar with the amount of protein in the foods you commonly eat so that you can plan your meals a little bit easier and you can prioritize protein as a result of that. Now, before we move on to the best sources of protein and give you some simple meal plans that you can take and use, I'm going to be sharing 3 quick tips for hitting your protein goals and managing your hunger when you're in a fat loss phase. Tip number 1 is to include at least 20 grams of protein at every meal. This amount of protein in a single meal is enough to maximally stimulate muscle protein synthesis, or MPS, allowing you to maintain and build muscle mass. Think about MPS, or muscle protein synthesis, a bit of a switch. When you turn on that switch, you are directing your body to build new muscle. However, it's important to keep in mind that this is the bare minimum. If you have a higher protein goal, you might need to be up in maybe the 30 to 40 gram range of protein per every single meal, maybe with a couple of snacks. This brings me to my next tip, which is plan high protein snacks. When you get hungry between meals, there's nothing wrong with snacking. But if you're always going for high carb and high fat and low protein snacks like crackers or cookies, you're probably going to struggle to reach your goals because you're going to be hungrier a lot more often. Instead, try to eat more protein-rich snacks like Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, protein smoothies, or even plant-based options like roasted chickpeas or even something like edamame. This will help you reach your daily protein goals and keep you feeling full and energized throughout the day. Finally, tip number 3, if you're struggling to hit your protein goals from the whole foods sources alone perspective, consider supplementing with a protein powder. Both plant-based protein and whey protein are good options depending on your preferences, and some people have allergies like dairy and lactose and different things like that, but they're really great ways to get more protein when you're short on time or you're craving something sweet. One thing to keep in mind though is you want to try to get the majority of your protein from whole food sources. Think about it as a way to fill some of your gaps in your nutrition rather than making up a large part of your daily protein intake. So what I'm trying to tell you here is don't go around and be drinking 3 protein shakes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and then call that a day for your protein intake. So what are the whole food sources of protein that I recommend that you include in your diet? Most of the time, I would try to choose fresh, lean, and minimally processed sources of protein. This includes things like chicken and turkey and fish, maybe some plant-based options like tempeh or tofu, Greek yogurt, eggs, cottage cheese, lean beef, maybe some shrimp. And if you follow a plant-based diet, beans and legumes will be important protein sources for you. Now keep in mind that these sources of protein also contain a significant amount of carbs, so they'll add some extra calories to your diet. The last thing I want to take you through is 3 simple meal plans that have different protein targets to make it a little bit easier for you to visualize and to plan really what your days are going to look like. For some variety, since everyone has different goals, I'm going to share a simple day of meals with 120 grams of protein, 150 grams of protein, and 200 grams of protein. In each of these plans, I'm going to focus mainly on the sources of protein, but I'm also going to be sharing some ideas and what you may have along with the protein sources that I'm talking about to make it a complete meal. Planning your meals around the source of protein, like I've done with each of these, is actually going to make sure that you're hitting your protein goals daily. It makes it a little bit easier from the food planning standpoint. All right, you ready? So let's start with 120 grams of protein. A day of eating with 120 grams of protein may look something like this. For breakfast, you can have protein oatmeal, with your protein coming from 1 scoop of protein powder, 2 tablespoons of hemp seeds, maybe a cup of oats, which also add a little bit of protein. Altogether, this comes to be about 36 grams of protein, depending on the brand of protein powder you're using and what kind you're also using as well. To make it maybe a full meal, you can add some berries for extra fiber and some nutrients. Then your snack could be maybe 3/4 of a cup of plain Greek yogurt topped with your favorite type of fruit. That adds about 16 grams of protein. At lunch, you can have 6 ounces of extra firm tofu and 3/4 of a cup of maybe quinoa for about 22 grams of protein. And you can add maybe your favorite vegetables as a side, maybe with that meal, maybe add some lettuce and a few other vegetables to make it a big salad. This would be probably a plant-based type of lunch. When you get hungry in the afternoon, a snack maybe of 2 hard-boiled eggs will give you a total of 12 grams of protein. And I always like to add fruit or a vegetable to any snack to add a little bit extra fiber. Maybe you could pair it with some cucumber slices and cherry tomatoes, maybe to make it a bit of a snack plate. And then finally, for dinner, your protein could be 4 ounces of chicken breast for about 36 grams of protein, maybe with your favorite side dishes like potatoes or maybe some Brussels sprouts. You can have a little bit more fun with that. Now, I'll give you another option that has about 150 grams of protein. For breakfast, you can make scrambled eggs with 2 eggs, a third of a cup of egg whites, some veggies, and 2 ounces of deli turkey for around 30 grams of protein. For snacks, you may have a protein shake, and that will give you typically 20 to 25 grams of protein. Lunch could be 2 chicken thighs and a cup of brown rice, which comes to about 37 grams of protein, and maybe you can add some broccoli, green beans, or a side salad to that meal. Next, 1 cup of Greek yogurt and 1 tablespoon of almond butter for a snack, and maybe you can top that with berries, and that comes to about 24 grams of protein. And finally, dinner might be about 4 ounces of lean ground beef with 2 ounces of chickpea pasta. I like Bonsai, it's a good brand, for about 36 grams of protein. And you can have all that maybe with tomato sauce and maybe some stir-fried vegetables. And finally, the last one is going to be meal plan number 3, which about 200 grams of protein. The higher the protein level goes, the harder it is for you to be able to get enough. Now, for this plan, you can start with maybe a veggie, egg, and grain bowl with 2 eggs, 3/4 of a cup of egg whites, a cup of cooked quinoa. That adds up to about 40 grams of protein. For a snack, you may have 4 ounces of canned tuna on a slice of whole grain toast that has a little bit of protein too. That brings it about 25 grams of protein. For lunch, you can have 5 ounces of turkey breast and 2 tablespoons of hummus with 2 slices of a whole grain type of bread to make it a sandwich. And maybe you're pairing that up with half a cup of cottage cheese on the side with fruit. Cottage cheese is a great higher protein source. All of that will give you a total of 46 grams of protein. Your afternoon snack could be 1.5 scoops of protein powder and 1 tablespoon of peanut butter in a smoothie. That will give you about 40 to 45 grams of protein. And finally, dinner might be a 6-ounce chicken breast and 1 cup of cooked brown rice, which will give you about 43 grams of protein. And you can have that maybe with some veggies on the side. One last note before we finish up here for today is that it's also important to keep in mind that your calories also matter. This is something that I'll talk about more in future videos, but it's essential that for you to lose weight, you need to be eating in a calorie deficit, which means that you need to be eating less calories of what you burn each day. So daily grams of protein are a key number to keep an eye on. But eating 200 grams of protein without watching how many calories you're consuming may result in weight gain instead of weight loss. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. There you have it. 3 ways you can incorporate more protein into a full day of eating to reach your fat loss goals. Now, if you want the PDF version of everything that I talked about today, the simple plans and all the things that we discussed, I actually have a guide that I created that includes everything that you need to know about protein. It goes through the best protein sources, the 3 meal plans that I shared in this video, plus 3 additional protein meal plans that will help you plan your days better. And finally, it has a list of all my favorite high protein snack options and also branded products. If you want the guide, check out the link in the description box to download it. And while you're there, make sure you also hit subscribe so you don't miss my next video, which will be out next week, by the way. Until next time, guys, I'm Andres. Bye for now. See you soon.